Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third edition of Extreme Time for Business show dedicated to the ESG issues. Today, we will take a look at the S in the ESG, and we will continue doing that by speaking with two top representatives of Vienna Insurance Group. I am pleased to introduce you Mrs. Petra Ringler, team leader for ESG in Vienna Insurance Group, and again, Dieter Scheidel, head of European Affairs and ESG for the Austrian group that I have already mentioned. Thank you both for being together with us again and helping us to dig a little more in the ESG issues and maybe clarify some of them. Dieter, we have already spoken about this S in the ESG in our previous meeting, but I would like to ask you to explain more specific, how does it look in the VIG's policy on ECG?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. When tackling upon ESG, in the previous webcast, I compared ESG to three brothers or three sisters, where one is a bit the larger one, which is the E, the environmental topic, that is very prominent in politics, very prominent in European and also local regulation, as it is perceived as a very urgent and imminent challenge and issue, and certainly that is true. But there are also two other brothers or sisters that we should take care of. It's social and it's governance. On governance, we said already, as a financial market participant, we are highly regulated in terms of governance. So therefore, very confident that we're going in a good direction. But when it comes to the S, the social, what is meant by social, basically, in a general understanding? Basically, there are two dimensions to it. One is the workforce. So how do we deal with our own employees? Do we respect the labor laws? But on top of that, of course, do we much more to attract new employees, also to retain our employees, to empower them? So that's about the classical HR topics, I would rather say. And then there is another aspect to it that is adequate living conditions. Adequate living conditions, of course, know several dimensions. It's also about nutrition and many other aspects. And one of them is adequate housing, affordable housing. So this is certainly something that we are closer looking at in more detail, because we think it's a fundamental issue. And maybe let me take a step back, still on the social topic. We think we as insurers are per se, right from our business model, very socially oriented, because we are helping those in need by those that are better off and paying also the premium. So I think right from our business model, we are in a perfect position to be perceived as very social. And as a very last point, let me mention also, particularly for VIG, S is deeply rooted in our DNA. It is of very high importance also to our main shareholder, and building on this very rich and deep history on social aspects, we further elaborate from that, including affordable housing.
Well, I know affordable housing is very close to VIG's heart, and you have invested and already developed some project in this area. My first topic would be, why do you think this is a very important topic? So why, from all that you mentioned already, why did you choose affordable houses to be maybe the most important for you?
Well, to start with, housing is a basic need and it's a human right. So it is something that is of fundamental importance. that we want to take care of and that we are taking care of already for a very long time. What are the current challenges for affordable housing? That is an issue in many, many markets in Europe. If we look at, national election campaigns for the respective parliaments, it always figures there. Affordable housing. Now, of course, these days with the energy crisis, even more. But already before, it was a very, very important topic, and we think this is a topic to stay. Let me take a look at our very uh, home market where we started from here in Austria. When we look back throughout the last 10 years, the property prices increased by around about 75%. So within 10 years, you had to pay almost the double for buying yourself an apartment or a house. When we look at the rent, that increased as well, not that sharply, but also significantly by 50% within 10 years. Now, these are figures from 2020, 2021. We think now these even further accelerated, which means with a normal income, it's impossible to buy yourself a property if you don't have any other financial means at hand. And I think this is something where we should step in. Let me very shortly elaborate why we are where we currently are with the housing situation. We basically see here 5 factors triggering this situation. First, we still have a disruption of supply chains that are resulting from the pandemic and, if we may say, hopefully post-pandemic situation. So this, of course, impacts a lot the ability to build new houses when supply chains are disrupted. This is somewhat difficult. The next one is also a bit linked to the supply chain issue is inflation. Inflation that is so dominant in 2022. Hopefully it will go down, but we see two-digit inflation. Meanwhile, also in Austria, but in Central Eastern Europe, we have a lot of countries where we have two-digit inflation numbers, even higher ones that we have to deal with. The third aspect is the change in the key interest rate policy of the European Central Bank to fight inflation. So it's for a very good cause. But of course, at the same time, the loans for buying yourself property are going up significantly. And this also reduces your capability then to buy yourself a home. So also these key interest rate changes that we currently observe are of relevance to that. The fourth one I mentioned already, since 24th of February this year, many things are different in our geopolitical situation, heavily impacting also the energy situation and these energy prices that are going up and also further accelerating this challenging situation. And the fifth one is certainly the Green Deal per se. So this huge legislative package that was adopted by the European Commission that is consisting of many, many different aspects. I think it's not here the time and the place also to further elaborate on that. But just let me briefly shed a bit of light on why property is so important in the context of the EU Green Deal. Property per se is extremely relevant when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. It's 37%. 37% of all the greenhouse gas emissions are originating from property. Of course, not only residential property, also industrial property. But it is the lion's share of greenhouse gas emissions. So therefore, it's really important to do something about that. And also 40% of all our energy that is consumed by property. And to this end, the European Commission is in the course of adopting a lot of new regulations when it comes to energy efficiency. We will see very soon that we will be required to build climate neutral from 2030. the new buildings, but also the existing building stock. And this will be 75 up to 85% of the buildings we have today. They will not be removed. So they will have to be renovated accordingly. And this also, of course, requires a lot of investments to make these buildings climate neutral. This is possible also with historical buildings, what we can confirm also here in Vienna, where we have a lot of nice historical buildings. So it's possible, but this all costs money. And this, in the end, will maybe even further accelerate this need for affordable housing because, and that's our clear commitment and understanding from VIG, green buildings are good and important for our climate. So this is certainly a good cause, but it should not be done at the expense of the people. So we should not end up in a situation where on the one hand, we have super green buildings, it's good for the climate, but on the other hand, we have a lot of people who cannot afford renting an apartment in such a building or even buying yourself a house that is climate neutral. I think we have to do something about that, and that's exactly the reason why we are active to make more living space available to medium income people. Yeah, we don't speak about the lower end of the society because of all these factors I just mentioned. We have a topic with medium income families, and we have to take care of that because in the end, as I already said in the beginning, it's a basic need and a human right.
Thank you, Dieter. Let's go and ask Petra now. Can you tell us in more concrete terms how does VIG contribute to affordable housing?
Yes. We mentioned it already in our previous webcast that VIG issued a sustainability bond with a volume of 500 million euros. And the net proceeds from that bond are not only invested in green projects, but also in social projects. The proceeds go into areas of renewable energy, green buildings, green transportation, but as well in projects for improved access to basic services such as education and health and more affordable housing. So, on the one hand, the money was invested in the construction of new buildings and the creation of additional affordable housing units, but also in the renovation of existing buildings. Around 20% of the net proceeds of our bond went exactly into this area. VIG and also our principal shareholder contribute to that by investing part of the capital in non-profit housing societies in Vienna and other Austrian states. And the earnings of the housing societies are limited by law. And therefore, the prices are cost based, and this makes the rents affordable. But the housing societies also address environmental factors. For example, they use energy efficient construction methods. They have a high renovation rate of existing buildings. And they also add, for example, solar panels on the roofs and so on and so forth.
Do you
So they
have also
combine also, sorry, they combine both, so affordability and also energy efficiency of the buildings.
there are also other examples, and do you have some partners in this undertaking?
Yes, I also have another example. Um, we have signed a cooperation agreement with Vienna-based Gropius. It's a so-called prop tech company that uses technology to assist in today's real estate needs. So Gropius completely rethinks the approach to construction and living. It sees the development of real estate as a holistic product, so from planning and design To construction and ultimately the operation of the buildings, Copios is delivering everything from one single source. And the vision of the company, which was founded in 2019, is creating sustainable living for everyone. And it relies on sustainable materials to achieve this. So Gropius homes are built with a timber hybrid construction method, and they use predominantly regional timber for that. So the components are also combinable, interchangeable, and can be separated and recycled at the end of the life cycle. Yeah, and also thanks to the use of renewable energies and intelligent energy management, the buildings are energy positive in operation, thus generating more energy than they need. But, and this is also important, as we heard before, Gropius not only enables green living, but also affordable living. So industrial production technology and the very high level of digitalization greatly reduce the cost of construction and make them affordable. Our partnership with Gropius began in 2021 with an investment in the company. And this year, we also agreed on a further cooperation. VIG is supporting the company with insurance, with assistance services, with financing, and also with the company's planned expansion to Central and Eastern Europe.
Well, affordable housing, I think it will be more and more relevant, also considering that urban population is increasing from year to year, and there is a general trend worldwide of migration from rural to urban. So lack of suitable and affordable housing, it's still a big problem in many places in the world. I have a piece of information that said that together with the building and facility management of the city of Vienna, VIG received the gold certificate from the Austrian Sustainable Building Council for the renovation of its property in Vienna's first district, Rathausplatz. Well, what is all this about, and are there also other projects, similar projects on your agenda?
Yes, we invested in a number of green buildings, also office buildings in Vienna and Warsaw. For example, in an office building, in a multifunctional complex building in Vienna, where the design combines sustainability with technical innovations. It has received the ÖGNI Platinum certificate, so from an Austrian council that gives certificates for sustainable real estates, and this platinum certificate is the highest possible you can receive from this Austrian council. And also in Warsaw, we invested via our VIG real estate fund in 3 green office buildings last year with an investment volume of around 50 million euros. And all the buildings have a very good or excellent BREEAM certification. It's also a certificate for sustainable real estate. But of course, we do not plan to only invest in office buildings, but we also plan to invest in green buildings, in green housing units that are also affordable at the same time, as mentioned before.
Well, I think at least young generations will be happy to hear about your intentions for the future. To end our discussions for today, I would go back to Dieter and ask him to try to enlarge a little bit the picture towards the other sea countries where VIG is present. Do you have similar initiatives in this country in plan? I already heard about the projects that you made in Warsaw, but for the other countries, are there some plans in the future?
As we said, affordable housing is a challenge that is not limited to a few countries. It is a mainstream issue. It's also frequently referred to as the social question of our time. So therefore, there is a real need in many, many markets. As you said, Daniela, I couldn't agree more. We see a lot of urbanization in many countries, because an argument that was put forward is that in some markets we see depopulation due to migration in other countries. So therefore, there was a thinking that maybe this could um, ease a bit the housing situation, but actually that's not true, because in the larger cities, they are popular and the housing situation will further be challenging for sure. So the urbanization is key. Now, having said that, we gained a lot of experience here in Austria. It's more than 4 decades that we gained a lot of experience through various channels. The main shareholder, our big Austrian subsidiary, with the affordable housing. And we are ready to share this experience with other countries. What we currently do is that we share this experience also when it comes to the regulatory environment with some countries, and we are currently preparing these projects that we hopefully will be able to publicly report on quite soon. For the time being, it's still unofficial, so I apologize and ask for your understanding. But as soon as these things will be made public, of course, then we are happy to share that. But yes, of course, the idea is to address this very important topic in several other countries that we are operating in, as it's such a fundamental topic. Also, not at least, also linked with our basic product in property insurance. So therefore, I think, again, this could be a perfect match.
Oh, thank you, Dieter. Well, what can I say? We are looking forward to hearing from your novelties, and who knows, maybe one day we will hear that you are have some initiatives also in my country, in Romania. Who knows? Until then, thank you both for your contribution, for all the information that you have provided our viewers. Thank you for watching us. We hope that we managed to present you the most important aspects of ESG in a relevant way. Looking forward to meeting you again in another edition of Exprime Time for Business. Until then, goodbye, and don't forget to subscribe to the Exprime's YouTube channel. Goodbye.